Hello and welcome back. We begin this week's portion reading about how Moshe pleaded impassionately with God to allow him to go into the land of Israel. And in the process of doing so, he says to Hashem, Evrono ve'eres ha'oretz ha'toivah asher be'ever hayarden. Let me now cross and see the good land that is on the other side of the Jordan. He seems to say something quite obvious. Evrono ve'eres ha'oretz ha'toivah. Of course, if he is going to cross over, so let me cross over. Evrono, let me cross over. Ve'eres ha'oretz ha'toivah, and see the good land which is on the other side of the Jordan. Surely it's obvious. If he's going to cross over, then he's going to see the good land which is on the other side of the Jordan. Our rabbis tell us that this teaches us a very important lesson. That whenever we request something of Hashem, we should also request to be able to see the good. What Moshe is saying over here is twofold. It is two separate things. Number one, let me cross over. And number two, allow me to see the good that is in the land. How many times do we go into somewhere? Go into the land of Israel. And we don't always see the positive. There's so much that we could look at that's negative. Everything in life. There's the good and the bad. Moshe is saying, I want to both be able to go over to the land of Israel, but also to be able to only see the good that is in the land of Israel. And that is the lesson that we need to be taking from the language that Moshe uses over here that is given to us by our rabbis. We have later on, when Moshe is talking to the Jewish people, reminding them of what happened by the Ten Commandments, he says at the time, Anochi omed bein Hashem uveinechem. Anochi omed bein Hashem uveinechem, meaning that I was standing between Hashem and you at that time. But here at that time, I was standing between Hashem and you. Anochi omed bein Hashem uveinechem. And again, homiletically, our rabbis teach us a very important lesson from here. Moshe was talking about the relationship between the Jewish people and God, the time in which he was giving the Torah to the Jewish people, and he said, look, Anechi, the concept of I, the I of the individual, the ego of the individual, is what stands between Hashem and between you. When we feel ourselves to be egotistical, to only think about ourselves, then unfortunately that stands between a relationship that stands in the middle of a relationship between us and Hashem. It's only when we are humble, when we have humility, can we have a true relationship with Hashem. Now, later on in the portion, we have the first paragraph of Shema. The first paragraph of Shema, we're all, of course, very familiar with the first paragraph of Shema. The Shema says, of course, after saying Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad, one of the most famous and well-known and important passages and statements of the Torah, it then goes on to give us a command that's saying, as we're all familiar with, Ve'ahavta eis Hashem Elokecha. Ve'ahavta eis Hashem Elokecha, that you shall love the Lord Hashem, your God, V'chol lavavecha, v'chol nafshecha, v'chol meidecha, with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might. Ve'ahavta seems to be a command and instruction, and many people ask the question. Certainly the philosophers would ask the question and say, how is it possible for there to be a direct instruction to love Hashem your God? Surely love is an emotion. You can't command somebody to love something or love another person. They either do or they don't. How can the Torah command us, that you shall love? You have to love Hashem your God. The answer that is given is that simply the very fact that the Torah does command us to love our God means that it is possible. What is the Torah actually commanding us to do? Is to uncover those emotions. Every person has the ability to experience that emotion of loving Hashem. The only thing is, it needs to be uncovered. And therefore the Torah is saying, what you should do is love Hashem with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your might, with all your resolve. And what the Torah is saying is that we should do the things that will cause us and lead us to love Hashem. V'ahavta is not a direct instruction and direct command that you should love, but rather you should do the things that will lead you to fall in love with Hashem. That is, of course, keeping the Torah and the mitzvahs and many other things. Each person has their own things that will lead them to loving Hashem. But that is the command that is being given here by the Torah, not the direct command forcing us to love Hashem, but rather to do the things that will make us fall in love with Hashem and everything that He does, by looking at the positives, looking at the good that He does, looking at all the blessings that we have, looking all around us and counting our blessings. That is what's going to cause us to love Hashem, and we can all then, when we focus on these things, have the ability to love Hashem and fulfill that command as well. We then have later on in the first paragraph of Shema, the next verse, it says, "V'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi metzavecha hayom al levavecha." These matters that I command you today shall be upon your heart. And then it continues to say, "Veshinantam levanecha," you shall teach them thoroughly to your children, v'dibratam b'am, and you shall speak of them. The juxtaposition, our rabbis tell us that the juxtaposition of these two verses, the first verse which says that these should be on your heart, and the second verse that says that you shall teach them thoroughly to your children, is there to tell us that you cannot have one without the other. It's only through through these words being on our heart, through us feeling Torah, can we truly teach it thoroughly to our children. Of course, we can always teach Torah to our children, to our students as well, anybody. But does it mean it's going to have a lasting impact? Not necessarily. When will it have a lasting impact? When we feel it ourselves. Our rabbis tell us the classic comment or a quote of Devarim hayotzim min halev nechnosim min halev, that words that come out of the heart will go into the heart. If people see that we are sincere and we are feeling towards that which we're telling them, particularly children and students, then that will make an impression and an influence on them. But it's only through, as the Torah tells us, by these matters being on our hearts, us feeling them, believing them ourselves, can we hope to achieve the same by our children. That's how we teach them thoroughly to our children, by having a feel and a belief in what we are saying. If we're not sincere and we're not committed to what we are doing and what we are saying and showing an example, then we have little hope for our children following in our footsteps and following the ways of Torah. Thank you as ever for watching. Please do share this video with family or friends, and if you have any feedback or questions both on style or on content, then feel free to email me and I will endeavour to respond as soon as possible. Thank you.